The morning sun cascaded through the vast windows of the luxury car dealership, its rays dancing across the polished surfaces of exclusive vehicles that stood proudly on display. Each car represented not just transportation, but a statement of success, carefully positioned to catch the eye of those deemed worthy of their excellence. Inside, the sales team gathered for their morning briefing, their designer suits and polished shoes reflecting the dealership's commitment to perfection. The air was thick with the scent of leather and ambition as they discussed their target clientele and the art of identifying the right customers at first glance. The dealership had built its reputation on more than just selling high-end vehicles. It had become a private club of sorts, where the elite came to be pampered and validated. The sales staff prided themselves on their ability to spot potential buyers from mere dreamers, often making split-second judgments based on appearance, demeanor, and current vehicle choice. As the morning progressed, a steady stream of qualified clients moved through the showroom. Each was greeted with practiced deference, business moguls comparing luxury SUVs, celebrities representatives arranging private viewings, tech entrepreneurs examining the latest sports models. The staff moved with choreographed precision, their attention laser-focused on those who matched their exacting standards. The well-oiled machine of exclusivity continued its operation until just past noon, when an unexpected variable entered the equation. Through the main entrance walked a man who seemed entirely out of place in this temple of luxury. Clint Eastwood, dressed in simple clothes and carrying himself with unhurried confidence, began to move through the showroom. His presence was like a pebble in a perfectly polished shoe, not immediately disruptive but impossible to ignore. He wore faded jeans, a simple blue button-down shirt, and well-worn boots that had clearly seen many miles. His weathered face spoke of years spent outdoors, and his deliberate, measured pace suggested someone who moved through life on his own terms. The sales team's reaction was immediate, though subtle. Years of training had taught them how to handle such situations with a delicate touch. They busied themselves with paperwork or engaged in conversations with invisible clients on their phones, creating an invisible barrier between themselves and this unwanted intruder in their pristine world. One of the managers, watching from her glass-walled office, observed Clint's movement through the showroom with growing irritation. His reflection in the spotless surfaces of the luxury vehicles seemed to her like a smudge on an otherwise perfect canvas. She watched as he paused to study various models, his casual attire a stark contrast to the opulent surroundings. When Clint approached one of the most expensive vehicles in the showroom, the manager decided it was time to intervene. She emerged from her office, her heels clicking against the marble floor in a steady rhythm that announced her approach. Her face wore the practiced smile of someone accustomed to handling difficult situations with diplomatic efficiency. "Good afternoon, sir," she greeted him, her tone professional but carrying an unmistakable undercurrent of condescension. "I couldn't help but notice your interest in our vehicles. However, I should inform you that this particular section of our showroom is reserved for our pre-qualified clients." Clint turned to face her, his expression unchanged. "Is that so?" he asked, his voice carrying a quiet authority that the manager failed to recognize. "And how does one become pre-qualified?" The manager's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Our pre-qualification process is quite extensive," she explained, her tone growing more dismissive. "It involves a thorough evaluation of financial portfolios and personal references. We find this helps maintain the exclusivity our regular clients expect." "I see," Clint replied, his calm gaze taking in not just the manager but the entire showroom atmosphere. "And you determine someone's worthiness to purchase a vehicle based on their appearance?" The manager's professional veneer cracked slightly. "Sir, I believe I've made our position clear. This establishment caters to a specific clientele. Perhaps I could direct you to one of our more suitable locations across town." Clint's expression remained neutral, but something in his eyes sharpened. "Actually," he said quietly, "I think I'll stay right here. I find this establishment fascinating." The manager's patience was visibly wearing thin. "Sir, I must insist—" Before the manager could complete her sentence, her phone buzzed with an urgent message. She glanced at it dismissively at first, Then her perfectly composed features froze in sudden recognition. The message was from corporate headquarters, marked as urgent and demanding immediate attention. "If you'll excuse me for just a moment," she said to Clint, her tone suddenly less certain. She retreated to her office, her usual measured stride betraying a hint of hurry. Through the glass walls, Clint could see her speaking on her phone, her free hand moving in uncharacteristic agitation. The other employees in the showroom had been watching the interaction from a safe distance, pretending to be absorbed in their tasks while keeping a careful eye on the situation. They noticed the sudden change in their manager's demeanor, a crack in the usually unflappable facade that had guided their exclusive establishment for so long. Clint remained where he was, seemingly at ease among the luxury vehicles. His relaxed posture contrasted sharply with the growing tension around him. Other staff members had begun to notice that something was amiss, exchanging questioning glances and whispered conversations as their manager's phone call continued. Suddenly, one of the senior executives burst out of his office, his usual composure replaced by barely concealed anxiety. He approached Clint with an urgency that drew every eye in the showroom. "Mr. Eastwood," he said, his voice carrying across the polished floor, "we had no idea you would be visiting today. Please accept our most sincere welcome." The effect of his words was immediate and electric. Every conversation in the showroom ceased. The manager, still visible through her office windows, sank slowly into her chair, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. The revelation that this simply dressed man was not only Clint Eastwood, but also their new owner sent shockwaves through the establishment. Clint's identity rippled through the showroom like a stone dropped in still water. But it wasn't just his name that caused such a stir. It was the implications of his presence and the way he had been treated. The manager emerged from her office, her designer heels no longer clicking with their usual authority. Her face had lost some of its color, but years of professional training kept her posture rigid as she approached. "Mr. Eastwood," she began, her voice carrying only the slightest tremor, "I must apologize for my earlier behavior. Had you known who I was," he interrupted quietly, "you would have treated me differently." That's exactly the problem, isn't it? His words, though softly spoken, carried throughout the showroom. Every employee within earshot tried to look busy while straining to hear more. The pristine environment, usually alive with the quiet hum of exclusive business dealings, now felt suffocating under the weight of collective embarrassment. "I've spent the last hour observing how this dealership operates," Clint continued, his calm voice carrying an undercurrent of steel. "I've watched potential customers being judged before they could speak, seen the subtle dismissals, the condescending smiles, the quiet discriminations. The manager's carefully constructed world was crumbling around her. The empire of exclusivity she had built suddenly seemed hollow under his steady gaze. "Sir, I assure you, we maintain the highest standards of—" "Standards?" he interrupted, again this time with a slight edge to his voice. "From what I've seen, your standards have nothing to do with customer service and everything to do with prejudice." The silence in the showroom was absolute. Even the gentle hum of the climate control seemed muted, as if the building itself was holding its breath. The manager stood rigid, her perfectly manicured nails digging into her palms, as 15 years of carefully cultivated culture began to unravel before her eyes. "I bought this dealership," Clint announced, addressing the room at large, "because I saw potential, not just in the business, but in what it could represent. But what I've witnessed today suggests we have a lot of work to do." The emergency staff meeting called by Clint Eastwood transformed the dealership's luxurious conference room into an arena of uncomfortable truths. The plush leather chairs that usually hosted discussions of sales targets and VIP clients now held a tension-filled audience of employees who couldn't quite meet their new owner's steady gaze. "Let me be clear about something," Clint began, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable authority. "The reputation of this dealership will no longer be built on exclusion. From this moment forward, we're going to measure our success not by who we turn away, but by how we treat every single person who walks through those doors." The staff exchanged uncertain glances. This philosophy represented everything they had been trained to avoid. The manager, still reeling from her earlier encounter, sat rigidly in her chair, her usual confidence replaced by a barely concealed anxiety. "I understand this is a significant change," Clint continued, reading the room's resistance. "But let me share something with you. Before I achieved any success in life, I was judged, dismissed, and underestimated countless times. Those experiences taught me a valuable lesson about human dignity and respect." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. The afternoon sun streaming through the windows cast long shadows across the conference room, highlighting the subtle shifts in expression among his audience. Some showed skepticism, others curiosity, and a few displayed the first hints of understanding. "Starting tomorrow, we're implementing new training programs. Everyone, and I mean everyone, will participate. We're going to learn how to evaluate customers based on their genuine interest and intentions, not their appearance or current vehicle." The manager raised her hand tentatively. "Mr. Eastwood, with all due respect, our current approach has made us the most successful luxury dealership in the region. Changing our entire business model could what?" Clint interrupted gently. "Could force us to treat people with dignity, could make us judge less and listen more. Tell me, how many potential sales have we lost because someone was judged before they could even speak?" His questions hung in the air, unanswered but uncomfortably true. A young salesperson in the back of the room shifted in his seat, clearly wanting to speak but hesitating. Clint noticed and nodded encouragingly. "Sir," the young man began, his voice gaining strength as he spoke, "last month I had a customer who came in wearing work clothes. My supervisor told me to direct him to our economy branch across town. He ended up buying 3 high-end vehicles from our competitor for his construction company's executives." Murmurs rippled through the room. Similar stories began to emerge. Opportunities missed, assumptions proved wrong, potential clients lost to competitors who showed more respect and openness. "This stops now," Clint stated firmly. "I'm implementing a new policy effective immediately. Every customer who walks through our doors will receive the same level of professional service, no exceptions." He stood and walked to the front of the room, his presence commanding attention without effort. "To demonstrate this change, I'm going to share something with you. That car I was looking at earlier, the limited edition model that I was told was reserved for pre-qualified clients. I'm giving it to someone who truly deserves it." The room held its collective breath as Clint turned to address the young janitor, who had been quietly cleaning the conference room's windows. "James, you've worked here for 5 years, haven't you?" The janitor froze, his cleaning cloth still pressed against the window. "Yes, sir," he replied, clearly surprised at being acknowledged. "And in those 5 years, has anyone ever asked about your interest in cars, your dreams, your aspirations?" James shook his head slowly, his eyes wide with disbelief at being the center of attention. "Well, I'm asking now," Clint said, a warm smile breaking across his weathered features. "And I'm also giving you a promotion. Starting tomorrow, you're joining our sales team. That limited edition car you've been admiring every morning while cleaning, it's yours to drive for the next month. I want you to experience firsthand what we're selling." The silence in the room was deafening. The manager's face had turned pale, while other staff members sat in stunned disbelief. James stood motionless, the cleaning cloth falling forgotten from his hand. "This," Clint addressed the room, "is how we begin to change, by recognizing the potential in every person, regardless of their current position or appearance. By understanding that true luxury isn't about exclusion, it's about excellence in how we treat every human being." The following weeks brought a whirlwind of changes to the dealership. The physical space remained as elegant as ever, but the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Gone were the subtle signals of exclusion, the velvet ropes that had separated premium vehicles from the rest, the signs indicating "by appointment only," and the carefully worded placards about qualified buyers. Clint had remained on site, personally overseeing the transformation. His presence served as a constant reminder of the new direction, his simple attire and approachable demeanor setting a powerful example for the staff. The training sessions he'd promised were unlike anything the employees had experienced before. "Today," he announced during one particularly impactful session, "we're going to do something different." He gestured to a group of people entering the showroom. a diverse mix of individuals from all walks of life. These are real potential customers. But here's the twist. Some of them are highly successful entrepreneurs, others are just starting their careers. Your challenge is to treat each one exactly the same, because you won't know who is who until the end of the day. The exercise proved revolutionary. Salespeople who had relied on appearance-based judgments found themselves genuinely engaging with each visitor, discovering stories and connections they would have missed before. By the end of the day, when the identities were revealed, more than one staff member had been humbled by their preconceptions. The manager, who had initially resisted the changes most strongly, found herself at a crossroads. During a private meeting with Clint, she finally voiced her deepest fear. "Mr. Eastwood, I've built my entire career on maintaining exclusivity. I don't know if I can adapt to this new approach." Clint studied her for a moment before responding. "The skills that made you successful, attention to detail, understanding of luxury markets, ability to read people, those are still valuable. The only thing that needs to change is how you apply them. Instead of using those skills to exclude, use them to connect." As if to test this new philosophy, fate brought a perfect opportunity. A young woman in simple business attire entered the showroom, her presence causing a subtle ripple of attention. Under the old system, she would have been politely but firmly directed elsewhere. Now, under Clint's watchful eye, she received a warm welcome. The woman, it turned out, was a successful tech entrepreneur who preferred to maintain a low profile. She had visited 3 other luxury dealerships, all of which had dismissed her based on her understated appearance. By the end of the day, she had purchased 2 high-end vehicles and arranged to bring her entire executive team for a fleet deal. The success stories began to accumulate. A modest-looking elderly couple turned out to be major real estate investors. A man in work boots and jeans was the owner of a thriving construction empire. Each sale reinforced Clint's message. True luxury wasn't about maintaining barriers, it was about creating extraordinary experiences for everyone. James, the former janitor, had become a symbol of this transformation. His intimate knowledge of the vehicles, gained from years of carefully cleaning them, combined with his genuine passion for cars, made him a surprisingly effective salesperson. His first sale, to a skeptical customer who had related to his story of transformation, had earned him a standing ovation from his colleagues. The manager, watching these changes unfold, found herself undergoing her own transformation. The rigid mask of superiority she had worn for so long began to crack, revealing a more authentic version of herself. During a team meeting, she surprised everyone by sharing her own story of having once been judged and dismissed when starting her career. "I thought I was maintaining standards," she admitted to the group, her voice carrying a new humility. "But I was really just perpetuating the same prejudices that I once faced myself. Mr. Eastwood helped me see that true excellence isn't about who we keep out. It's about how we welcome everyone in." Clint, observing from the back of the room, allowed himself a small smile. The dealership's transformation was far from complete, but the foundations of change had been firmly laid. The sales numbers, surprisingly to some, had actually increased under the new approach. More importantly, the atmosphere had shifted from one of exclusive isolation to genuine connection. 6 months had passed since Clint Eastwood's unexpected arrival at the dealership, and the transformation was nothing short of remarkable. The showroom still gleamed with the same polished perfection, but now it radiated a warmth that had nothing to do with the lighting or decor. The change was evident in every interaction, every sale, and most importantly, in the faces of both employees and customers. On this particular morning, the staff gathered for what had become their favorite monthly tradition, the sharing of success stories. The meeting room, once a place of rigid sales targets and exclusivity metrics, now buzzed with genuine excitement as employees prepared to share their experiences. "Last week," James began, his confidence a far cry from his days as a janitor, "a gentleman came in wearing paint-splattered clothes. Under the old system, he wouldn't have made it past the front door." He paused, a smile spreading across his face. "Turns out he's been running his own artistic restoration business for 30 years. Not only did he purchase our top model, but He's also commissioned custom work for his entire classic car collection. Similar stories flowed from other staff members. The manager, who had once been the cornerstone of the old culture, now led these sessions with authentic enthusiasm. Her transformation had perhaps been the most profound of all. "I want to share something," she announced, standing before the team. "Yesterday I received a letter from a customer we turned away last year. She wrote to tell us that she's noticed our change. She came back last week and had a completely different experience. She's now not only a client, but has become one of our biggest advocates in the business community." Clint, who had made a point of attending these meetings whenever possible, listened with quiet satisfaction. The changes he had implemented went far beyond sales techniques or customer service protocols. He had managed to transform the very soul of the establishment. The dealership's reputation had evolved in unexpected ways. While it remained synonymous with luxury and excellence, it had gained something far more valuable: authenticity. Industry publications had taken notice, with one prominent magazine featuring the dealership as a case study in modern luxury retail transformation. "The true measure of luxury," Clint addressed the team, rising from his seat, "isn't in the products we sell, but in the way we value human dignity. Each person who walks through those doors carries dreams, aspirations, and potential. Our job isn't to judge those dreams, it's to help make them possible." He moved to the center of the room, his presence as commanding as ever, yet somehow more approachable. "When I first arrived here, I saw two things: a business that had lost its way and a team capable of extraordinary change. You've proven me right about the second part, and you've corrected the first." The sales figures supported his words. The dealership's revenue had not only maintained its previous levels, but had actually increased by a significant margin. More importantly, customer satisfaction scores had reached unprecedented heights, and employee turnover had dropped to nearly zero. But perhaps the most telling sign of success was visible in the small details. The way employees genuinely greeted every visitor, the authentic conversations that filled the showroom, the proud smiles of staff members as they shared their experiences. The dealership had become more than a luxury car showroom. It had transformed into a place where dignity and respect were the true markers of excellence. As the meeting drew to a close, Clint made one final announcement. "Starting next month, we're going to share our experience with other dealerships in the network. What we've built here isn't just about selling cars, it's about changing the way businesses think about success and human value." The manager, who had once resisted these very changes, was the first to volunteer to help with the training program. "6 months ago, I thought maintaining exclusivity was the key to luxury," she reflected. "Now I understand that true luxury is about creating an environment where everyone feels valued and respected." James, now one of the top salespeople, added his own perspective. "Mr. Eastwood didn't just change our policies, he changed our hearts. We learned that the real measure of a person isn't in what they wear or drive, but in how they treat others." As the team dispersed, Clint remained in the conference room, looking out over the showroom floor. The morning sun streamed through the windows, illuminating a space that had become more than just a luxury car dealership. It had become a testament to the power of treating every person with dignity and respect. A young couple walked through the front doors, dressed in casual clothes and looking slightly nervous. Without hesitation, 3 staff members moved to welcome them, their smiles genuine and warm. Clint watched as the couple's apprehension melted away, replaced by comfort and engagement. This, he realized, was his true legacy, not just the transformation of a business, but the transformation of hearts and minds. The dealership had become a model of what was possible when excellence was measured not by exclusion, but by the ability to recognize and honor the dignity in every human being.